Born for battle, built for the mud, the legendary Big Toad. In most 4x4 stories here in Brazil, Engesa is mainly focused on the awesome 6x6 armored vehicles they made, some gnarly beasts, the Cascavel and the Rutu, the steel icons that made Brazil a key player in military hardware. Oftentimes, the sapao is overlooked in its significance to Brazilian history and its relevance to the Brazilian military to this day. But for those of us that live in reality and low range, Engesa's real legacy isn't one of those armored beasts, it's the Engesa 4. The sapao was launched in the early 80s, originally called the EE-12, and it was born from a military requirement to replace the aging fleet made up of Rolls Willys and Toyota Bantaradas. While it did share the rugged DNA of its big brothers, that hardcore military angles, the Engesa 4 offered a revolution to the Brazilian trail: super coil springs. In a time when most Brazilian 4x4 vehicles were bone-jarring leaf springs, the Engesa 4 used rigid axles with super coil springs, a very long reach, giving it a reputation of being nearly unstoppable in muddy terrain. Look inside a stocked Engesa 4 and you might notice something missing: a stock low-range lever. Utilizing a heavy-duty 5-speed transmission to keep things light and rugged, where the first gear is essentially your granny gear. And this gives enough torque to climb up a 60-degree incline, acting essentially as your low range without the complexity of a secondary transfer case. By the late 1980s, Engesa was bleeding cash, throwing millions into the ill-fated Osorio tank project. This thing was dead on arrival. The Osorio tank project was suffering. They weren't finding any buyers for these. There was a bid in the Middle East that went through, then America somehow sabotaged it, and then it was going belly up here for Engesa. But the Engesa 4 was their civilian lifeline. This thing was bringing in the money because it was a status symbol, a Brazilian homemade Hummer, as comfortable as going out for a night on the town as it was waking up hungover in a muddy bog. Usually the engine was the GM 151 from the Opala, very cool, or the Perkins 220B. These things are little aqua machines. They could go into 1 meter of water without any preparation. And from its wide stance and round headlights, it got the nickname of Big Toad, or Big Frog, the sapao. When Engesa finally collapsed into bankruptcy in 1993, the Engesa 4 refused to vanish. The design and engineering was so mechanically sound that the property was eventually rescued by Agrale. They improved upon the original blueprint and evolved it into the modern Agrale Marua. And this Agrale Marua is currently the workhorse for all Brazilian forces across South America. The Engesa 4, compared to its modern successor, the Agrale, the souls are the same. Absolutely. The heart, the suspension of the vehicle is exactly the same. This awesome suspension setup is what made the original Engesa 4 a galador de barracos, a pothole swallower. And it's because of the suspension that keeps the Marua relevant to this day. However, under the hood, they are worlds apart. Completely different beasts. The Engesa 4 really had the Opala 4-cylinder in it, pumping out about 80, maybe 88 horsepower. So pretty underpowered, but you don't need to go too fast. Very simple, easy to work on mechanics, but underpowered by today's standards. But once again, it's a crawler, not a sports car. The Agrale Marua has the benefit of modern turbo diesels, like the Cummins ISF 2.8. primarily the MWM 2.8, providing nearly double the horsepower, and then double down on the torque. You got yourself a beast. Towing and load hauling capability, needless to say, has been maximized. The Marua is essentially an Engesa that has been puffed up in every way like a Ford Ranger. Look at an old Ford Ranger and a modern one. Yeah, you can see the difference. Same with the Marua and the Engesa 4. And it was needed because it needed to follow modern military requirements, carry more gear, carry more soldiers, get out deeper into the deserts or jungles. And this really comes down to ability over agility. The Sapao still has the advantage. Its short little nimble wheel space and also being a lighter vehicle makes it a little billy goat going up those hills. And its approach angle was 70 degrees. That is awesome. Compared to the Marua that can only handle about 55-degree angle, a frog billy goat. Frog billy goat. Frog billy goat. Probably the greatest evolution and advantage the Marua has over the Engesa 4 is you can throw it into 4x4 while moving. The Engesa 4 takes a little bit more muscle. If you want a weekend toy for technical rock crawling and having fun in the mud, the Engesa 4 is your ticket. However, you need a military vehicle to get you and your soldiers across a desert or a jungle, the Agrali is for you. Essentially, Engesa built the concept, launched the vehicle, had the image, but was distracted by big money that never came to fruition. Agrali provided the longevity. Tell me what you think of the Big Frog, Brazil's own Hummer. This thing is awesome. I thank you for being here. And like I always say, I'll see you on the flip side. Até a próxima. Ciao, ciao.